Hello everyone, my name is Schneckser. I'm a K-5 science educator and explorer in Virginia Beach, Virginia, and I'm here to talk to you, I'm super excited, about limited resources and remote learning. And really the trick here, the things that we're going to talk about today, you can use no matter what, no matter where you are, no matter what subject you're teaching, what age of student you are working with, remote versus in-person. These strategies are going to help you all the time. They're really important now when we're in this unique situation where we're not in person with our students and it's causing a little bit of anxiety. Believe me, when I first realized we were going to be transitioning to remote learning, as a science teacher, I'm accustomed to using a lot of things, a lot of manipulatives, having my students discover and really learn by doing things and using different tools, using different materials. So the thought alone of how am I going to make that happen, that type of learning, discovery, and manipulation happen when all of my students are in their own individual homes, really started to stress me out. And I kept thinking to myself, how am I possibly going to teach what I need to teach without my stuff? And how many trips am I going to have to take between home and school to get all my stuff into my home classroom? But after I took a moment to really breathe and just think, no, just chill. You have everything you need at your home, and so do the students. The students have everything they could possibly need to learn at home. And actually, this is probably gonna make some of the learning opportunities more authentic and more connected to the students because it's gonna be their stuff at home, things that they see every single day that they're going to be using in ways that they haven't possibly used them before, or thinking about the stuff that they have at home in different ways that they hadn't considered before. So one of my biggest worries when all of this went down was fourth grade. I was about to move them into physics, potential, kinetic energy, laws of motion, all of that. And generally, what I do in my lab is inundate my students with Hot Wheels materials. So they literally will walk in on day one for physics with Hot Wheels tracks, connectors, loop-de-loops, every possible Hot Wheel car that they could possibly find just scattered around the lab, and they just come in and build. They're free building, they're just showing off what they can make, they're exploring all the different pieces. And that's when I come around and I infiltrate, and when I see that they're manipulating things like the angle of a ramp, or they're increasing potential energy by making a track go higher rather than lower, I start giving them those words. I'm like, oh my gosh, what you just did by raising that, you raised something or you increased something called potential energy. That's the stored energy. Now, I knew that's really powerful in my lab, and I provide all the materials. The students just provide themselves and their thinking. So how in the world was I gonna recreate that at home? I don't know what they have. But rather than panicking and thinking there's no possible way to do this and going online and saying, okay, we're just gonna watch a video, or I'm just gonna get a worksheet, or I'm just gonna like tell them the information, I started thinking, how am I going to use whatever they have in order to make this come to life? Well, most of our students have toys. They might not have the exact Hot Wheel tracks that I want them to have, but they're gonna have something. Even worst case, they have no toys, they have chairs, they have something that they can manipulate, something where they can drop an item. So what I did was, before I went live for the first time with my fourth graders, I started playing around in my house. I found the first ball I could find, which happened to be like a little Nerf ball, like a really, really small one. In my classroom, I probably would have used ping pong balls or marbles or a tennis ball or whatever manipulative, whatever sphere I have in my classroom, but I don't know what the students are going to have. So I put myself in their shoes. If I'm walking around my house, what round items do I have that would work for what I'm thinking in my teacher brain that I want my students to uncover or discover? So first thing I found was a little Nerf ball that you put in a Nerf gun and you shoot it at people. And so I was like, all right, great, this is what I have to work with. And then I started infiltrating and going through my kids' rooms, and I found a couple Hot Wheels tracks and some dominoes. I also set my eyes on the couch that's in my living room and pillows and books. Oh my gosh, we have tons of books at my house. So I was thinking, all right, I myself am just gonna build, I want this ball to go through some sort of roller coaster thing and then make its way to the end. So I was creating it just off the top of my head. I want the ball to go from here to here. The goal that I've set for myself is for it to land on this particular space on the floor in my living room. So I started building, and I videotaped myself building and failing and failing and failing and failing some more, so that I have all these little embedded lessons in there. And on top of it, my students are watching me struggle, and they're watching me go, oh, here's another pillow. Oh, this is a longer pillow. Oh, I need to adjust how high something is. Oh, I need to make this a little bit lower. Oh, I need to change the angle of those books. So they watched me do that, and I did a time lapse, so it was boop, 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 and it also made it look kind of funny. But I put myself in the student's shoes first, took a video so that when I got to that first live class with my students, they could see what I was doing. And so when I challenged them, I said, okay, here's what you're gonna do. I want you to just make something really cool that involves a ball going through obstacles. You can use whatever you want. If you have Hot Wheels tracks, awesome. If you have PVC pipe, awesome. If you have pots and pans, if you have chairs, if you have clothes, whatever you have, I want you to build. And oh, by the way, let me show you myself making what I thought, or what I imagined with all the things that I just collected around my house. And so I thought of it that way. What do I have in my house? And I gave them a concrete example that they could go through. Now, notice, I didn't say anything about physics. I didn't say anything about gravitational pull, velocity, momentum, laws of motion, potential and kinetic energy. I just sat back and I made it fun. I made it something for them to explore, and I made it very open-ended. Use whatever you have at your house. And then I showed them me struggling, because I know, especially with me not there while they're doing the activity, they're gonna struggle more than when I'm right next to them and I can help coach and I can help correct on the spot. So I wanted them to see my struggle, and then I told the story of how frustrated I was, and I wanted to make this really cool thing to show my students. And what I ended up making was not as cool as I thought it was. So I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna keep working while you guys are working as well to make it even better. So I'm challenging myself and I'm acknowledging how difficult this is. Okay, so all of that whole story to show you that all you need to do, it doesn't matter what you have or don't have at home, you have to change that mindset and you have to think, all right, what do we have at home? That's a really big example for 4th grade, because for me, that was gonna be my biggest struggle. What the heck am I gonna do when I'm so used to having all these manipulatives to teach physics? Well, I just look around my house and I think like a student, all right? I'm a kid, very much mentality of a child all the time, looking and playing and working with things. So it's easier for me to kind of think that way. It's probably like that for you too. You're educator, we have very unique minds and we think in these ways, but just help shape your mindset so that you're thinking, what can I do? Not how could I do that, or what I can't do. You have to look at what you can do. Now with my other grade levels, I was a little more flexible. A lot of them were building different models of things. So my kindergartners are really looking at wildlife and they're really investigating insects. So a lot of my challenges for them were, okay, go outside and just write or draw whatever you see. What insects do you find? You can write words if you want, you can draw if you want, you can do both if you want. It's up to you. Again, leaving it open-ended has been super, super key for me being successful in remote learning. Limited resources also means you have to be open to whatever your students have and whatever they feel or whatever they want to do with the material that you are are giving them. So my kindergartners were looking for insects, but the next day, what I really wanted them to do was understand there are 6 legs. Insects have 6 legs. They have 3 distinct portions of their body. So by them going out and just drawing everything that they could find and then bringing it back to me in the next class and showing me, and we're talking about what they saw in different observations, the next thing that they had to do after together we talked about it, I was like, oh my gosh, did you guys notice? All the insects you found had 6 legs. What? All the insects you found had 3 different portions, 3 distinct sections of their body. What? That's how you know an insect from another type of animal. Isn't that crazy? But the next thing I wanted them to do was create a model of any insect they wanted. I don't know what they have at their house. They might have markers, crayons, they might not have any of that, they might not even have paper, who knows? But what I do know is they have grass and leaves and seeds. Since we're in North America, the seasons are changing from winter to spring. So leaves are changing and they're falling. Seeds are falling. Flowers are blooming and then those petals are falling to the ground. So I know for a fact if they take a step outside, they're gonna have a lot of stuff to create with. So I challenged them, choose any insect you want to make, but you can only build with natural materials you find outside. So I made an example for them. I showed them mine. I made 2 things. One of them I made a bird, and the other one was a praying mantis. So I showed them how I thought through as I was walking around my yard and finding all these different things, how I put together my model, my nature art, so that they had another concrete example, and I posted the picture for them to reference on Google Classroom. But then they were free. You can make whatever you want with whatever you want, and I encourage them to use natural materials. Now, I also gave them the option, if you just want to draw it and color it, that's fine. Totally up to you. But I also planted that seed, pun intended, planted that seed to get them outside and away from technology and use what they have. This also brought up discussions about different colors and different plants that they each have in their individual homes and in their neighborhoods, which also kind of spider webs you into other discussions and other scientific topics. It also could morph itself into a creative writing piece or anything else that we can think of. But the keys are, if you take nothing else from this video of me talking, think differently about what you see around you in your own home and keep things open-ended. You have to remember that everyone is going to have different things. Everyone's mindset's going to be different right now. Everybody's situation, their families, everything is slightly different now. So the more flexible you can be and the more understanding of what students may or may not have, the better. So don't limit yourself though and say, well, I couldn't possibly teach X because I don't have Y. You can say, no, I'm definitely gonna teach X. I'm just gonna use this material, or I'm gonna leave it open for interpretation. What types of materials I'm going to use or my students can use for this particular assignment. All right, guys, I'll see you on Twitter. Come ask questions. I'll share even more videos and pictures with you, but don't stress about materials. You have limited resources right now, or maybe you have tons of resources. Whatever your situation, it's all good. What can you do? Don't limit yourself.